First off, Fat Black Pussycat. I stole the name from Louisa Carpenter, the Woolworth heiress, who had a club in Tangier in the 50s. And there's a book by Michelle Green called Dream at the End of the World, where they talk about this place, Fat Black Pussycat. And Tangier at the time had what was called Inner Zone. Burroughs wrote extensively about it. At the time, Tangier was ruled by Italians in one section, French in one section, British in one section, Americans in one section, and then in the center was the Interzone, International Zone. And there, okay, if you committed a crime in the French zone, you run over to one of the other zones. But in the international zone, you could get away, not only you did get away with murder. So the heiresses and the artists and the pirates and the pimps and, you know, that was where all those people went. It was very much like South Beach. The core were Luigi Scorcia, Michele Savoia, and me. We were the three, you know, and we all did this together. We went there together. We had our angle though. We'd never go to except for our first meeting. From then on, we never went to a business meeting where a decision needed to be made with all three of us, because we always wanted to be able to say, well, we have to talk to our third partner at the end, you know. And so we would always leave that one thing. But every other place, not only did the three of us show up, and we showed up with 3 to 5 others, and I showed them how to walk in. Well, we kind of came up with it together. We'd walk into a place, Ben and Ernie, whatever, would open the door. We'd all walk through, take 2 steps into the joint, and stop. Stand there and scan real quick. Make sure everybody saw us. And then we'd nod and all walk in like that. And they'd be like, what the fuck? Who's that? You know?
Who are these guys?
Right. We're all tricked out, you know. I mean, on our bad day, you know, on our dress down day, you know, people have casual Friday. Yeah, that's when we don't wear a tie. And when we found that place, oh my God, fucking Norman Bedford hooked us up with this place that had been, I don't know, a dozen different things before. And each of the dozen things that had been before remained in some aspect. So it had been a speakeasy. So the speakeasy door was still there in the back. Block, block. It had been a steakhouse. So there were fucking brass railings around a portion of the table section. It had been a little disco. So there was a mirror ball and a black floor and a black bar. It had been an Italian joint, which it was again. And so there were Chianti bottles on checkerboard tablecloths. You couldn't invent how kitschy cool this place was. I don't care how many flea markets you went to, you know, and how many, if you get a subscription to the Salvation Army Digest, you couldn't, you know, create a place like this. And the food was awful. And the Jews were mobbed up. And it was shady from jump. And so we decided that would be our place. Mario's was the Italian restaurant owned by the fucked up Jews, who the same ones who had Facade. You know what they did there, right? They ran fucking Facade into the ground, sold it to some people, were getting edged out, and before the new people took possession of the venue, they took to the place with chainsaws. You know? They took chainsaws to the bars, to the columns, to the this, to the that. They fucking trashed the place. Those were the kind of people. Anyway, so the Italians took over. Mario's became Mickey's. It ran for a minute, and then that, you know, even they figured out that the boxing motif was probably not the best idea. And so they had invited one of their colleagues, Chris Pacello, and Lord Michael, who had done wonders in New York at Limelight, primarily at Limelight, to come down. What's funny is that there were Italians who were mobbed up as well, and they were hanging around. And you'd see more and more of them in different configurations. They were down the way at Union Bar a little bit. They were here and there. And then one day, we came in on our Tuesday to get our money. And it's funny, because sometimes they'd make me wait for my loot, make us wait. And I'd call them from the payphone in the hallway, like, you know, outside of the door to the office. Open the fucking door, give me my fucking money, you know. Are you nuts? And anyway, so we go in, and instead of Al Baker behind the desk with our money, it was another guy of Italian persuasion. And I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on here, Phyllis? They're like, don't worry, Hood. You're still good. Everything's still good. It's just going to be our joint now. Which then became Mickey. See, Mickey had testified on behalf of John Gotti as a character witness. And in exchange, the Gambino family gave Mickey a nightclub. And their bright idea was, Mickey was boxing then, again, and their bright idea was to turn it into Mickey's with a boxing motif. Now, it's probably the single worst idea I've ever heard about for a nightclub. But you don't tell guys who are on the lam for murder that it's probably the single worst idea you've ever heard in your life. Oh, fantastic, Carl. Fantastic, man. You got, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah, upside down ring on the ceiling. Just my idea of a hot spot. Anyway, but it didn't matter. Mickey dug a joint because he entered what we called the Goodfellas route through the kitchen. There was the back entrance, which is already shady enough in the alley, and then there was the back entrance, which is a little bit further north, through the kitchen, and that was our Goodfellas entrance, and that's the way Mickey had always come. So, he already had kind of felt at home. He was living in the Raleigh then, and yeah, boxing. He's the only guy I know who could party until 6, and then train from 7 to 10, and then and then go have a nice big lunch, take a nap, and go out and box. And do it all over again the next night. In fact, you know what? He still does that. I haven't seen him for a year or so, but the last time I saw him, we were out till late, and the next day at 7 o'clock, he was training at the gym, Now, there may have been a 30-minute disco nap in between. There may not have been. I'm not sure. But he's still that guy. And that's what I love about Mickey. He is who he is, and if you don't like it, later. Anyway, so Chris bought the rights for $10,000 for Fat Black Pussycat.
Hood, who had habits, went behind my back and sold his half to Chris. A little bit, and so now I'm partners with Chris, which is not fun. Not nothing bad with that, but he didn't offer it to me. So, now I got a partner in the party that I didn't plan on. But it was still a good partnership because me and Chris took that party to heights we never thought were going to happen.
Chris Pacello and Lord Michael, who had done wonders in New York at Limelight, primarily at Limelight, to come down. Word is that they had a bit of a kerfuffle up in New York, and they needed to lay low for a minute, and so they were basically handed the keys to that kingdom. Now, Monday was really the only night that made money, but it made insane money, And in those days, $30,000 on a Monday night in a place the size of, a bedroom is pretty good loot.
Who was your DJ?
Oh, man, there were many, but primarily it was Carlos Menendez, who would, he and I would confer every week and talk about whatever the theme was, whether, it was Eddie, the password was Eddie Hazel, which is the guitarist for P-Funk, or it was Mario Balza, the creator of Mambo, or Don Ho, when we played Hawaiian. He was that guy. And then sometimes he'd switch off to Leventhal, but really, Menendez was the main room DJ from the get. And then so many people were smoking so much pot, and I hate pot, but I don't hate the people that smoke pot. So we created a room for the potheads, specifically for the potheads, to keep the pot corralled. And Sugar spun that room because he's a pothead, He brought his bong and he brought his, his records, and he was happy, And we had the cops presiding outside, and they never, ever, ever once fucked with us with the pot room. Cello and Lord Michael came in. They switched it over to Risk. Mondays continued to be the dominant night. They tried a few things here and there on the other nights, but it wasn't cutting it. Some other shady shit was going down here and there, which I've already been indicted about, and I've still not spoken. So I'm not going to start now. But all of a sudden, place burned down. Go figure. I think it was one of those fluke things where, spontaneous combustion between a need to move and whatever. But it worked out perfectly for some people because, with that money, they could parlay into something different. But But before Chris went to moved Fat Black to Liquid, it went to Glam Slam.
We had our little hiccup. The place burned down, and we moved to the Glam Slam. And it was like Mark Leventhal calls me at like on I think a Tuesday or no, he called me like on a Wednesday or Thursday of the day that Risk burned down. And I wasn't a guy who got up really early, but Mark got up early, called me and said, Risk just burned down. Where are you going to move the party? I'm like, what do you mean Risk just burned down? He said, yeah, the place just burned down. We got to move the party. So I called James Butler. I said, can I have a meeting? And I get Chris after he's dealing with all this shit. And I get Chris, and we go over and cut a deal with James Butler.
And at the time, Prince owned the place, which was fantastic.
1235.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that place is, well, it's mansion now. What was it, 1235? It was Glam Slam. It was Club Z. Well, when, what's his face ran it? When Jerry Kelly ran it. Oh, that's the place that's theoretically was Al Capone's Supper Club way back when. That's the rumor. But with Glam Slam, oh, speaking of DJs, Prince loved the fact that Sugar spun on his bare feet. He would bring a little piece of carpet, a little remnant, 2x1, and put it down by the booth and spin barefoot. And so one day Prince is there, and I was there. Prince is like, hanging around, and he's walking, with his goons, and he looks and he sees Sugar spinning, and he goes, that's fantastic. In or not in, which is why I used that policy at the door of every club that I worked, and there were many. And it was also why I used that policy, or we used the policy at Fat Black Pussycat. Yeah, we made you jump through a couple little hoops, but they were fun hoops, hula hoops. And, you said a couple things. You found out a password, you finagled the address, and you snuck down the alley, and you whispered, and you got in. And to me, that was the thing. I mean, it was important to have a place for us, by us. It was before FUBU, of course, but the policy is the same. And the philosophy is the same. I meant to say, Fat Black Pussycat. It blew up. It blew up like a fucking geyser. It got too popular, thank you. There were too many people. The harder we made it for people to get in, the more people wanted to get in. I literally would not tell people what the password was until after 3 o'clock on Monday. In those days, you had to phone a landline and finagle the password. And then if you said it too loud, you didn't get in. If you didn't have the password, you didn't get in. If the password was Don Ho, we'd play Hawaiian music for 2 hours. If you didn't like Hawaiian music, you could leave. And it was on Monday because all my friends worked in clubs, and Monday was the day that everybody was off. You can't visit your friends when they're behind the bar managing a club or working the door or spinning a record. So Monday was our day. And, we didn't start it for money. We started it just because we wanted our own clubhouse.
And ran into John Hood one day and Luigi and Savoya in a yellow Cadillac driving down Ocean Drive. And I was working with Aaron Crosby at that time doing a short video or something. And they looked at me like, hey, brother, we're starting this new party called Fat Like Pussycat. You need to join us. And from there, it was on. I was indoctrinated.
And then I met John Hood, and I met Luigi, I met Savoya, I met Carlos Menendez, who was our original DJ, and I met Big Ben, who was on the door. And the team was Chris, me, Hood, Carl B, for a hot minute Tony Major, then Gilbert, then at one point later on there, Conrad, because it got so crazy, Gilbert needed help. And then it was Sugar and Mark Leventhal. Now here's a funny thing about Mark Leventhal and the Sugar thing. Mark didn't like the venue at the time. He didn't like the venue, didn't like what we were going to do for a little while. But it was a fun party, So he'd come spend for a little while, and he mostly turned it over to Sugar. So Sugar and I and Carl, picking out songs and trying to remember what we liked as a kid. And Carl was born in Brooklyn, all right? So where Carl was from is like if you put him in that time and space in the mid to late 70s, He was there for all of the
Hey, I ain't that old.
He was there for all the birth. He was there for all the birth of hip hop.
Thank you.
We had Lord Michael, that crazy genius from there. He's the one who gave us the 40 idea. That was him. Everybody wants to take credit for that. That was Lord Michael. And it's still in Washington. We're just moving down the alley. Just moving down the alley.
Same alley.
Same alley. And so we do that one. But this one was fun. If you messed up in there, you wanted to go out the front. Because we beat your ass going out the back. Back then, that was not, we had a fight in that place. Because that was back when all the Staten Island kids used to come down and try to run roughshod. And it was like, man, I can't even wear good shit. I can't even wear good clothes to the club anymore. Because they would be down for the weekend. And you know you were going to fight. We had a great staff run by Teddy. Teddy Siegel. Janet was our cashier, Mickey Rourke's sister. She was our cashier and accountant, great. She's the only person to keep Chris in line. It was hard to keep Chris in line. We had Ingrid Caceres and her fucking Rolodex.
Well, once Chris joined up with Ingrid, it brought more celebrity
Bingo.
to Liquid.
Yeah.
It's crazy. After a couple of years, you got Puffy and Jennifer Lopez showing up at Fat Black Pussycat on a Monday, and we're having people flying in from New York, from California, from almost all over the country for a Monday night party. And outside, the alley was overwhelmed. Gilbert was overwhelmed. Conrad was overwhelmed. I'm sure the police at time were overwhelmed. And it was a Monday night. Everything else was closed in the city. Back in the days, it was the Island Club. That was the only place we had to go on a Monday night. It kind of gave me a vibe of Global Tribe a little bit because you had the models. You had the hip-hop kids that had to wait till 1 o'clock to get inside the hip-hop room. And then when Ernie brought along Bougie and everybody else and Kitty Meow, and we went downstairs and created the house room, they created a whole nother vibe.
So, Pussycat Lounge.
Yes, that was great. That was great. Kitty Meow, that was one of our best promoters as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Kitty Meow.
Kitty and Paloma.
And Paloma brought, rest in peace,
Paloma.
they brought a lot of beach, how can I say, flavor, savoir-faire.
We used to have great. We had the best drag queens in the world. You had Bougie downstairs. You had the hip hop room. First was Sugar, and then Sugar was on his way out. He just got tired of DJing, and he introduced us to this little skinny Haitian kid named DJ Epps. Turns out he was the shit.
DJ Irie came in. He just brought a whole different vibe to it as far as I'm concerned. And as DJ Irie grew, and so did Fat Black, it grew even better, and music grew even better. And then him and Epps, the combination down the road, just worked out perfectly.
So you had Mark in the main room. You had Epps, Irie, and Sugar in the
Hip Hop Room.
hip hop room, and you had Bougie and Stingray downstairs.
Oh,
and
yes,
Stingray,
Stingray
and Bougie with that fucking fan of hers. You know, you had to be careful because sometimes you get too close and she take a fucking little chunk out of your face. Man, I'm telling you, if Chris does not come down from New York and say, okay, why he's opening his club before his club was even open, wasn't even finished. He said, I'm going to do Fat Black in his club. Right? Fine Hood, let's do it. If Chris does not say that, then Fat Black only lasts 8 months. So Chris Pacello, I'm telling you, he had the vision that he knew we could make this party.
He championed the cause.
He championed the cause, and he allowed me to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do.
What was so unique about Fat Black Pussycat that made Miami Beach so wild?
I personally think it was based on the locals. Because Monday night was for us, after a lot of people worked at News Cafe and after we served the tourists all week and all weekend, Monday night was for locals. That's why it's important to have password to keep a lot of the tourists out.
I guess probably the most best night I ever had at Fat Black was probably at Liquid. And I look up and I'm in the room and I'm looking around. I look down and Denzel's over there, Jasmine Guy's over there, Mike Tyson's over there, Michael Jordan's over there. You know, it was just like, what the fuck did I do? You know, it was just like a surreal moment.
Well,
you know?
let me elaborate. I believe one of his best moments was meeting Tiger Woods.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, so
I did. Yeah, that is my best moment. That is my best moment. You're right.
Yeah,
that's my best moment. You remember? Yeah, that is my best moment.
I
was cried that day.
Mine was I was in the bathroom, and I turn around and I see freaking Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
In the bathroom, looking in
he
the
was
mirror.
Like a regular guy.
I see Robert De Niro in the bathroom, looking in the mirror. I was like, "Hey, you ever feel like you're in a movie?" You know, I'm thinking a taxi driver. You know, I'm like, oh man, look at this.
The original Fat Black Party only lasted 8 months, 8 to 9 months, because you had Hood, Luigi, and Savoya fighting over the continuity of the music, and it was a clusterfuck.
I mean, I was surprised that it was successful for more than a month, let alone that it ran for 5 years. And what's even stranger is that since 2006, when I returned to Miami, I can't even tell you how many people have asked me to bring back Fat Black in their venue.